Saturday night, my heart was racing till like 3 in the morning. I
You're
couldn't.
my
couldn't.
parents. Say hi,
Oh, hey,
Dad.
hey guys.
Hello. Hello, and welcome back to Dodgers Debate. I'm Jack Harris, the LA Times Dodger beat writer, along with our columnists, one stationary, Bill Plaschke, the other Dylan. Are you driving right now?
I'm basically driving Uber. I'm going to go pick up my parents right now because we're going to go watch my daughter compete in a sporting event, which went off a little bit earlier than I expected. So
Your parents are gonna be on Dodger Debate.
my mom might be in the back seat. My dad's going to be in the passenger seat here. I don't think that'll come out on camera.
Is this safe?
Probably. Yeah, I think it is. I can drive and talk at the same time. I do that all the time.
Okay, is it legal?
That is a very good question. I don't know. Although we're known at Dodgers Debate for pushing boundaries, so
Okay, well, we'll let Dylan jump in when he's got really good takes then, so they're not wasted. All right. It's been a week since the end of a all-time World Series, since the end of
it's
the
only been a
Dodgers.
week.
Not even a week. Today's Thursday, we're recording. It's been 5 days. Have you recovered yet?
No, I have not because I have children and they wake up very early and I got to get them to school. So it's terrible, man. Have you?
I slept for like 12 hours on Sunday night. That was good.
Did
It
you?
was so
Yeah.
bad. I didn't travel, and I still haven't recovered. I was Saturday night. My heart was racing till like 3 in the morning. I
You're
couldn't.
my
couldn't.
parents. Say hi,
Oh, hey,
Dad.
hey guys.
Hello.
What kind of son is Dylan?
They can't hear you. I'm on headphones.
Oh, okay,
I'm sure they would tell you I'm a great son.
this is so tremendous. But my heart was racing. Everybody in town is still talking about it. I mean, everybody in town is still. That game seven was the most, well, game six, but game seven was the most unbelievable thing that people have ever seen here. I mean, people are still at the Laker game last night. The Dodger players were the stars.
Well, let me ask you this, Plash, because I was trying to think about good ways to frame, the legacy argument here. I think some of it's obvious. Like, this is a dynasty now. It's 3 titles in 6 years with a back-to-back. It's one of the great, baseball runs of all time, probably one of the great LA sports runs of all time. But was this postseason the most thrilling championship run, either in Dodger history or LA sports history? Because you go back through all of the crazy moments. I mean, I was joking with people that, I thought game one of the NLDS was going to be an all-time great playoff game. It ended up being one of the least memorable games of this entire October. I mean, can you remember just all of the swings, all of the big plays being contained in one postseason March like this Dodgers run had?
I mean, you had the Dodgers clinching the pennant or clinching the division series on a wild throw from a pitcher in the ninth, bottom 19, and that's not even the top 10, it's not even the top 10 moments. Yeah, it's the craziest Dodger thing I've ever seen by far and away. And there have been some crazy Laker runs, and they had the first one in 2000 when they kind of come back from 12 points down to beat the Trailblazers in Game Five
Right.
of
The game that was fixed,
no,
allegedly.
that was 2 years later against the Kings, and that game was fixed. So yeah, they had a game was fixed, and that was crazy. And USC's had some crazy times, but never like this. I can't remember anything like this. I mean, again, who was the guy? What's his name? Orion Kurtwiger?
Oh,
I don't remember.
Ryan Kerkering.
I don't remember his name, and he was the most incredible play in many years. And I don't remember his name. So yeah, it was nothing's ever matched this ever. And it really bonded. Dylan wrote about it greatly in his column. It really bonded the team and the town together, and people really felt like they were Dodgers, and because they lived in Dallas, and it was breathtaking. And again, I'm supposed to be a neutral observer, and I was up till 3 in the morning. Thought I was having a heart attack. My heart wouldn't stop racing after Saturday.
Well, that kind of segues into something Dylan wrote coming out of the parade this week because, this all puts the team in an interesting place now because they've accomplished, I think, on a baseline, everything they wanted to, right? Andrew Friedman has talked for years about making this a golden era of Dodger baseball. It's hard to find an era of more sustained success or championship winning highlights now than what they've done in the last 6 years and then going back a decade. They wanted to be the premier franchise in baseball. I think they are that now at this moment, just with the star talent that they have and the way the sport revolves around them in a lot of different ways. And it kind of made this question of like, okay, well, what's next now for a team that's aging, for a team that, getting back to this place is only going to become more and more difficult, most likely in the coming years. And yet you heard them at the parade immediately talking about wanting to make it a three-peat, wanting to keep this going, wanting to add to this legacy they've already built. And it raises the question of how do you do it? And especially as we get into the offseason here, it's, okay, do you keep this core intact? Do you try to make moves that maybe shake things up, but change the makeup of the roster? And I think it's just the way this postseason played out, and we're going to get a really interesting test. And the free agencies of Kike Hernandez and Miguel Rojas. The team did pick up Max Muncy's option today for next year, which was not much of a surprise. But as Dylan wrote, like, would you like them to kind of keep this together, especially with some of those guys who might be getting older, who might be less productive, but have shown a penchant for performing when it matters most? Do you want to see a bigger shakeup this winter? And how do you evaluate that through the lens of having won 2 straight World Series and having seen this group kind of come together and rally like it did at the end of this last one?
Yeah, I don't think they changed the core. I think the core's got to stay the same because they're older, but they're not that old. And winning 3 is not the Yankees. The Yankees, the 2000 the Yankees won 3 in a row, so they can win 3 in a row. Is not that. It's not out of the question. That's not all that historic. That's doable. But they got to change the fringes. They got to get a left fielder. And I say right now, if Miggy asks for too much money, you get rid of Miggy and you go out and get a Harrison Bader or somebody, or you trade an Emmett Sheehan for Harrison Bader. Is Bader a free agent? He's not a free agent, is he?
He is a free agent now. He declined his option.
So yeah, I think you tweak around the edges, and if that means getting rid of Miggy. Miggy's coming back. Miggy could be the next manager of the Dodgers after Dave Roberts. He'll be back in the organization at some point. So Kike. I just think you can't. If you can do better, you have to do better than them. I mean, Miggy, when he hit his memorable home run, he hadn't had a hit in a month. So I just think you can't be afraid to tweak around the edges, and the edges include Miggy and Kike.
See, I kind of think though that it's not a great free agent class A. To me, like Kyle Tucker, for example, is a guy maybe you keep tabs on. Don't necessarily you're not like leading the charge necessarily on that one. And I think there's always a trade deadline, right? I think you bring everybody back, you see where you are at the trade deadline, and yes, it's a harder way to like live. Obviously Friedman's talked about not wanting to, leave your shopping undone till like the middle of the season, but again, I think in this case the players have earned the right to come back. And you kind of go from there, because I do think, I mean, this is, you're kind of getting down, like, not to get too philosophical here, but what do these teams exist for, right? I mean, if you're, I think that the Dodgers, you kind of look at the way, right, they kind of, right, the way they rolled out the carpet kind of for Kershaw into retirement, previously Chris Taylor, the fact that they let him kind of hang around for a while. I do think that they're trying to kind of strike this balance of like, okay, let's try to kind of stay ahead of things while also kind of maintaining as family and atmosphere as possible. And again, I don't know how you can do that, getting rid of a guy like Rojas, given the plays that he made. I mean, it wasn't just that home run, right? What fans really remember are moments, right? And what I think was so great about the World Series was that it gave us so many moments that like people are going to remember like where they were when these things happened, and these were the guys that did it. I don't know how you don't like bring them all back at this point. So again, like, and it's easy for me to say, obviously, Mookie Betts told me that when I told him that I thought he could hit late in the year. He's like, well, it's easy for you to say, and similarly, look, I think, Andrew Friedman has a long shopping list at the trade deadline. I believe that he can get it all done. He might not want to, but I think if there's 6 holes in the roster, he'll be able to fill them. Again, easy for me to say, but I think that these guys at least, have earned the right. I mean, because that's what it looked like too, right? These guys, it was clear they wanted to come back. I think they were all playing to come back in a way, and I think they earned that opportunity.
Well, Miggy's maybe he's 37. So if you can if you can do better than that that position, they also need a closer. I think they need to cut their losses and go get another top end closer.
I mean, let me say this too. Like, had they lost the World Series, I was going to advocate like blowing up the entire team. Um, and again, going from right because Freddie Freeman's going to be 37 by the time the playoffs come around next year. How old is Betts going to be? Is it 33, 34, 35, 34, right? And then Teoscar Hernandez will be what, 35? I would have said like at that point, if they had not won, find a way to like trade two of those guys. I do think that the age showed throughout the season. I think a lot of that, kind of led to their offensive inconsistency. We saw it, the effect that the 18 inning game had on them. So I was, again, so viewing this like on a completely rational standpoint, I would just blow the whole thing up. But I think when you win, you kind of earn the right to kind of run it back, and I think they've earned that right. Look at me, the big old softy.
Did they win or did the Blue Jays blow it?
That's a good question. I mean, I think it's probably a little of both.
Yeah, I do too.
One of the overriding takes I had from those last couple games, and I wrote about this week, is money won them the World Series, and money got them to that point. But by
Yes, it
game
did.
six, and especially game seven, the reason they win those games is because of this, whatever, the culture, the intangibles that they have. And some of that, you also get because of money, right? Like the Dodgers have done a good job of picking the right people to, for the most part, to give these big contracts to keep around, to build their clubhouse around. But I mean, think about game seven. You have Mookie Betts at shortstop. That's not why they paid him $365 million a couple years ago. You have Yoshinobu Yamamoto pitching on 0 days rest. That's not something that you're expecting to be getting when you give him 325 million. You have these other guys making big plays, from Rojas to Kike Hernandez to Max Muncy hitting a home run that gets him back in the game, to Will Smith's home run in the 11th after he got his toe back on the plate in the ninth. And there was just this overriding, for falling behind as early as they did in that game, to continue chipping away, to continue to stay in it, to get the contributions they did from guys out of the bullpen. That game script is not what you were expecting to win a title with when you spend the whatever billion or $2 they have over the last couple seasons, and even more than that over the last half decade. And the reason they were able to pull that off is because of some of these other intangible things that guys talked about after the game. It's what Max Muncy said he was most proud of. So, while the Blue Jays did things that did not help, a lot of attention's been paid to this lead that Isaiah Kenner-Falefa did not get off of third base on that play with Rojas and Will Smith in the bottom of the ninth. Obviously they had the base running mistake at the end of game six. They opened the door for the Dodgers to come back, but the Dodgers did have to come back. That was not handed to them. And the reason they were able to is because of some of these, inherent things with the way this team has come together over the last couple of years, that I think when it does come back to evaluating how much of the roster you want to keep together, to dealing with guys like Rojas and Kike, that you want to try to probably preserve. And it's part of what they did last year. I mean, Dylan's right. They brought back Chris Taylor and Austin Barnes, guys who were also in those kinds of roles last year. And when it didn't work, they made moves during the season to adjust. And my guess is, while they're going to probably be somewhat aggressive this winter, they're going to have the money to be able to. They have probably, once the ARB deals are all done, 60 or 70 million dollars of payroll from this past year that's coming off the books. I mean, they're going to have the ability to pursue a Kyle Tucker, to try to maybe pursue a big trade for maybe like a Stephen Kwan, to maybe try and go out and get a closer. Devin Williams will be back on the market after they tried to get him last winter. Pete Fairbanks will be on the market as a guy they were interested in at the deadline. Like, there are going to be moves that you're going to be able to try and make, but I do get the sense that trying to keep as much as this core together as you can is important, because it's the one thing that players pointed back to the most in the wake of Game 7 the other night.
If you were going to erect a statue of one moment that won it for him and put it in a statue, put it in front of Dodger Stadium, I know what I would say, and I'll see what you guys would say.
I would probably do the moment of Will Smith picking up Yama, because like those are the two guys that had the two biggest plays at the end of that game, I guess, in addition to Rojas. But that to me is like the indelible kind of visual of a guy, pitching his arm off and another guy who had caught 74 innings and then hit a home run to win the World Series. That's what I'd go
I would go with Andy Pages clown or Kike in left field.
with.
That was to me the whole World Series rests on that. That was an unbelievable, underrated play. That was an impossible play. He climbed over, he dunked on him, and he still made the catch. That was unbelievable. That in my mind is the most indelible memory.
I would go with Yada Sensei tricking Yamamoto
Oh yeah,
into getting treatment.
And then you could put Hero right next to him in his lucky underwear.
Lucky underwear.
Three of them.
Dylan, yeah, tell us how do you get that story about the lucky underwear? How do you get that story?
It was our friend Taro Abe of Chunichi Sports had actually written about the lucky underwear last year. So,
Oh really?
yeah, it was actually a year-old story.
That's great. That was a great story. That was the weirdest. That was the weirdest story ever.
Yeah, and he wore the same underwear. So he wore them for Game 6, obviously, where Yamamoto started. He had a feeling Yamamoto might pitch in Game 7, so he wore the same underwear, unwashed. Now, Josh Rawish, the former Dodgers PR guy, who's now the president of the Hall of Fame, he was there, and I was really encouraging him to go get Hero's underwear.
That would be iconic.
I mean, the Hall of Fame doesn't have any item like that, I assume.
Can you imagine the little placard description they'd have to put next to that as to why these?
I told him I would write the placard for him.
All right, last question, because this is one that's going to really dominate the winter. But was the Dodgers winning bad for baseball? And are you worried about what the after effects of this, warranted or not, might be with a labor battle looming at the end of next season?
Did you see the TV ratings? Did you see them? They're unbelievable for Game 7 or 28 million.
I think it was 27 million in the U.S., 51 million across the globe.
They're so good for baseball. Baseball needs a Goliath. They need a villain. The Dodgers fit that perfectly, and they're good guys. So they're a likable Goliath. They're a strictly likable villain.
Yeah, I mean, I would, my suspicion here is that, right? I mean, we can say whatever we want about these owners, but they're not dumb, at least when it comes to making money. My suspicion is that this isn't so much about like competitive balance, because clearly most of these owners don't care if their team loses. That's why most of these teams suck, right? This is about, my guess is that when these, right, in most of the teams that got purchased in the last 10 years, I bet you they're leveraged up to the gills. And this is just not, they made bad financial decisions and they're trying to find ways to cut cost. And that's why we're talking about the salary cap here. But I think my guess, this talk about this being bad for baseball is completely disingenuous because, like Plash said, the TV ratings prove otherwise.
Yeah, and the other thing about it is, as people have pointed out, I mean, other sports, the dynamics at play in baseball are not too dissimilar from what we see in other sports. Now, they're more extreme since there's no salary cap or salary floor. But even in a salary cap world, guess what? The Dodgers are the one team that's spending to the cap and into whatever luxury penalty thresholds like the NBA has every year. And they're probably able to put together a roster, maybe not this talented, but with maybe that's more talented than the rest of baseball as it was this year. I mean, you don't think that if there's in a world with a salary cap, Shohei Ohtani is not constructing his deal 2 years ago to still make it as team friendly and provide as much flexibility as possible. You still think they aren't going to go out and add some of these guys that they have because they would have still had some of the money to do it? I mean, yeah, I think the financial imbalance part isn't, or the competitive imbalance part is not a direct cause of not having a salary cap. This is why there's dynasties in other sports too. I think the big difference is that, without a cap, it allows a team like the Dodgers to keep reloading and being a playoff team every year. But like we just talked about, even with this team, over the next couple of years, it's going to get harder and harder for them to win. And I'm assuming they're not going to start spending $700 million a year on payroll. Like, I think even for them, there are limits. Like we've seen there's graphs going around on Twitter of like, hey, the Dodgers, part of why they have such a big payroll is because they pour as much of their revenues back into their roster as any team in the league. Now, like Dylan said, I think there's maybe some financial reasons a salary cap is going to make sense for baseball as revenue sources change and the cable TV dies. Like, there are some financial uncertainties in the sport, but if you think that the Dodgers are this good because there's no salary cap. I just think that's wrong. And I think if anything, this World Series showed that, they probably should have lost that World Series, and they probably should have lost it to a Blue Jays team that was a last place team a year ago. That, yes, did spend a lot of money. I think they were fifth in payroll. They had a $500 million deal for Vlad Jr., but also spend at a level that at least half the sport is capable of on a pretty regular basis, and most teams should be able to do when the stars align and they have good young talent. I mean, there's no reason the Pittsburgh Pirates shouldn't be spending more money right now. There's no reason the Detroit Tigers should be talking about trading Tarek Skubal. Those aren't things the salary cap would fix. And if anything, I think it just created this environment where, yeah, like the Dodgers have become this team that other teams want to beat, that the rest of the sports world is interested in seeing either win or lose, and is part of the reason why baseball just got this all-time great World Series, because there were huge stars, because the sport itself lends itself to unpredictability, and you saw an all-time great team get pushed to the limit and have to figure out a way to overcome it.
Well, let's not be disingenuous here, though. The money is why they win. Like, I think both things can be true, right? They
Yeah,
do.
but
I think they win because of the money. I mean, think about like all they have made mistakes. I mean, they blew, right, like close to $100 million on like two relievers that didn't pitch at all in the postseason, right? I mean, no other team can kind of mistake. They can paper over their mistakes because of the money, right? This idea that like, oh, their front office is so much better than anybody else's. I'm not so sure that's true. Now, what they do have is money, and they have a lot of it. And I don't think that's a bad thing, by the way, right? The fact that like a big market team has more money than a small market team, yeah, right? Like, I mean, that's just the way it is. And, again, I keep stating that I have to keep going back to soccer or whatever, but like, that's what made like when Leicester City won like the Premier League, right? That's what made it so exciting was they had no money, right? And they actually had to be really smart. And yes, in like a year or two, pretty much everybody else, right? Everybody on that team got sold, right? But like it made that one season that special. And that to me is kind of part of the fun of this thing. It's a baseball for the most part is a regional sport, meaning that nobody knows who any of these guys are outside of their market. The fact that the stars are like on a big market team that's going to be in October every year, that gives the rest of the country somebody to hate, I think is absolutely great. Yeah, and it doesn't matter, right? If they win because of money, fine. That's part of it. It doesn't, like you said, right? And it doesn't stop other teams from spending. Right? Maybe the Padres were irresponsible to spend the way they did, up to Peter Seidler's passing, but like, hey, they went for it and it made the sport better. And now I don't know if it made business sense for them. We'll find out. I'm sure as kind of their ownership on SAG unfurls here. But as far as it being good for the sport, this is absolutely great. Spend as much as they want. If anything, I would abolish the luxury tax so they could keep spending even more and make people hate them even more.
All right. Let me ask you all something. Did you hear Mad Dog Russo's rant about the Dodgers celebration?
I don't listen to crazy people, but what did he say?
He said that Joe Davis should not have been the MC of the celebration because he was impartial, supposedly impartial during the World Series. Then he turns around and hugs the guys, and it shows that he works for the Dodgers. And it made everybody in Toronto really mad.
Well, that's not hard to do.
I love Joe Davis. Joe Davis is great. Yeah. I think David Vassegh could have done it. But no, Vassegh
I would have signed up to see that.
Yeah. I just thought it was weird. As one who watched some of the games from TV, it was weird to see Joe Davis change hats from impartial, all-knowing baseball announcer to Dodger backer. It was weird. It was weird. It was weird to watch that.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, Plash. I also think like we're kind of on the older side. I mean, those lines have been so blurred, I don't know. I didn't. Again, I did see some commentary about that. Obviously, if I hadn't seen it, I don't think I would have really noticed it myself. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine. I'm fine with it. But it was. I like to see. I go on record saying David Vassegh could have done that. He did a great job.
Yeah.
He needs more airtime.
He got a lot. His whole nipples thing with Kike made it on Jimmy Kimmel Live this week. Come on.
Oh, did it really? I didn't see that.
Did you? We'll end here. Did you guys like how vocal they were about three-peating at the parade?
Yeah, I loved it. They were great, and they weren't. You know what? They didn't seem drunk.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
didn't. Whereas the Rams set the all-time record for being stumble bum drunk. They didn't seem drunk, which I thought was very classy.
I was more taken aback by anything than how good Yamamoto's English seemed to be. I mean, he almost seemed like a WWE wrestler. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
he
noticed,
did.
but he didn't have his sunglasses on. He gets called on. He puts them on. He delivers that thing, right? What was it?
Awesome.
Losing his eye. He didn't even say that, by the way. He was like it was kind of like
He didn't say that.
well, not really. I mean, it
Not
kind
the
of got
direct
translated
translation.
loosely into that, but he just kind of stepped into it. And I was kind of like, what? Like, you speak English? I feel a little bit like, I don't know if betrayed is the right word, but like, I feel like he hid something like really important for me. Cause I had heard, from his agent that he'd been taking he takes, I guess, up to like 4 English classes a week. This is something he's been working very hard at. And Joe Wolf mentioned to me, like, yeah, he might not need an interpreter by next year, and so
That's
when
wild.
and the pronunciation was like really clean, and I was like, what? Like, wait, this whole time, like, have you been able to speak English? Not that it really matters, but like, I don't know,
To which he said no.
to which he said no.
He does not speak English. Hero
Yeah,
is
but see,
going nowhere.
you have to understand though that there's in other countries the standard for fluency, what we call fluent here, basically would not be passed as fluent in any other country. So, I think their standards for fluency are a little bit higher than ours. So I don't know, man. He probably speaks a lot more English than we think.
It was a lot of the players mentioned it felt like an even bigger scene this
Oh, it
year.
was, and the parade was longer. The parade was twice as long.
They listened to you, Plaschke. I don't think they sped through the streets at all.
It was a real parade. I complained about that to them many times. It was a real parade.
A
I was
real
very impressed. I think the Dodgers handled it. Your organization handled this very well, as it could be handled. They had no mess ups. They put on a great show.
a real parade for what was a real accomplishment, winning back-to-back World Series in 3 and 6 years. All right, well,
And when do you go to the GM meetings, Jack?
on Monday.
Plaschke, don't you miss those days?
That's
On
unbelievable,
Monday.
Jack. Take some time. I told Jack,
You
go away,
guys-
go hide.
You know what though? This year it's in Vegas, man. Honestly, if I could get away, if my wife would let me, which she would not, I would totally go to Vegas just to hang out.
Take a month off, Jack. Take a month off.
At some point. We'll see. I was sweating out option decisions today. Max Muncy picked up. Alex Vezia picked up. He would have been ARB eligible anyway, though. So the off season has begun. We'll be keeping tabs on it over the course of the winter. We'll get together again. But no, thank you all for watching all year, following along. Dylan, I'm glad you arrived to your destination safely, which I'm assuming. Otherwise, you just kicked your parents out in the middle of a random street.
But for the record, it seems like Dylan was bored his mother to death. Your mom seems so bored, Dylan.
My mom only likes
baseball talk.
my mom only likes my Japanese media appearances.
Your sweet mom just seems so bored.
Yeah, enough baseball. I think we've all had our fill of baseball for this year. But yeah, all right, we'll get back together. If not sooner, then definitely for our Christmas show. I can't wait to see what sweaters Mark Potts has already.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, like I said, thank you guys for following along, for the support. Glad we made it to the end of another year.
Thank you.
Thank you.